Ready to begin. And so we'll begin with the homage to the Buddha. And so we can sort of mentally, we can bow 3 times. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And so it's recording now. And then one time we'll do the salutation. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Homage to the Blessed One, the Worthy One, the fully enlightened one. Okay, so good morning, everybody. This is June 14th. We're in the middle of June now. Okay, and so we're going to be continuing now with our reading of the numerical discourses, the Anguttara Nikaya, Book of Sevens. And the suttas that we're going to come to today involve classifications of people at different stages of attainment and realization. And so maybe some of this will seem a bit sort of distant or far from us, but it's still useful to know about these distinctions and different types of practitioners. So let us share the screen. Okay, so there's the share screen function. So is the text visible?
Yes,
Yes, Bhante.
Yes,
Bhante.
Yes.
Okay, so we start off with Sutta number 14. And sort of what's going to be uniting these suttas is the description of these different persons in these groups as being worthy of gifts, worthy of hospitality, worthy of offerings, etc. This is the usual formula for homage to the Sangha. So it's ahuneo, pahuneo, dakineo, anjali karaneo, anuttarang punya ketang lokasa. So usually the way this is usually formulated is in relation to the 8 noble persons. That is the 4 who have attained the path, the 4 paths to realization, and those who have attained the 4 fruits of realization. But now we're going to have different classifications using a sevenfold scheme rather than the eightfold scheme. And there are certain ambiguities about these types of persons. And so we'll take a look at them. And so here we have a very concise statement about 7 types of persons, called here the one liberated in both respects, or could also be understood as the one liberated from both angles, from both obstacles, the one liberated by wisdom, the body witness, the one attained to view, then one called the one liberated by faith, then the Dhamma follower and the faith follower. Okay, for more detailed explanations of these 7 types, one would go to Majjhima Nikaya, the middle length discourses, Sutta number 70. And maybe I should open that. And so we can get the explanations. Yeah, I wasn't intending to go into such detail, but now just while I'm speaking, I thought we should really look at the definitions in the Majjhima Nikaya. Okay, do you see the text of the Middle Age discourses?
Yes, Bhante, we do.
Okay, good. I'm going to increase the text size. Okay, I think this is better now. Okay, so here we have the text saying that there are these 7 kinds of persons found in the world, and then it enumerates the 7 types. Okay, so we start off with the one liberated in both ways. In Pali, this is called Ubato Bhaga Vimutto. So Ubato means from both, and then Bhaga is sections or portions, and Vimutta is liberated. And so here's the definition that we have a person who contacts with the body. It's a rather special phrase, kayena pusitva, and abides in those liberations that are peaceful and immaterial, transcending material forms, and his taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. Okay, so this person is called liberated in both ways. And the 2 ways in which this person is liberated is first, let us say, the common way, the way that will be shared both by the liberated in both ways and liberated by wisdom, is that their asavas, their taints, are destroyed through wisdom. And so that is the sort of common factor of these 2 types of arhats, that the asavas, these are the taints of sensual craving, craving for renewed existence, and ignorance. Those have been utterly eradicated through wisdom. So that's one way in which this person is liberated. The other way in which they're liberated is that they attain what are called the immaterial or non-material liberations. And these are the 4 formless meditations: the sphere or base of infinite space, the base of infinite consciousness, the base of nothingness, and the base of neither perception nor non-perception. And in addition to those 4 liberations, there's another liberation which is called Sanya Vedaita Nirodha, or also known as Nirodha Samapatti. And that is the meditative attainment in which perception and feeling, and according to some texts, all mental experience is brought to cessation. Okay, so these are arahats because their taints are destroyed, who are capable of attaining the formless meditations. These are called the arupa attainments, plus Nirodha Samapatti. And now the question is, where I said that there's some ambiguity, to count as liberated in both ways, does one have to be capable of attaining all the formless meditations and the attainment of cessation? Or is it enough just to be able to attain one of them, the lowest? And I have to say that we can't settle that question from the Nikayas, from the early texts themselves. The commentary says that if the meditator attains even the lowest formless meditation, the base of infinite space, that is enough to count as liberated in both ways. If an arhat is able to attain the base of infinite space, but they don't reach the higher liberations, they're still considered liberated in both ways. That's the commentarial position. But the sutta is somewhat ambiguous. If you just take the words of the sutta themselves, it seems to me that they are saying that this is the arhat who is able to attain at least the 4 immaterial meditations and probably also the attainment of cessation. But I don't have a definite answer to that. So there's some ambiguity. Okay, now we come to the second type of person, the second person, and this is called the person liberated by wisdom. And the text says, here some person does not contact with the body. Yeah, let's go back to the person liberated in both ways. Yeah, I meant to take up this phrase, contacts with the body. And yeah, the Pali is kayena pusitva. So pusitva literally means touching. And then kaya is the body, and usually it refers to the physical body, though according to the commentary, what the commentary says is that he touches these attainments. You don't touch them with the physical body because these are meditative attainments. So the commentary says, I think it says that he touches them with namakaya. This is the mental body, the body of the mental factors. But it seems to me rather significant that the text uses this expression kaya, which normally is the physical body. So it seems, this is my own conjecture, that the experience must be so powerful that it has like a transformative impact on the body, on the physical body. So it's as if one is experiencing these attainments with the body, even though, of course, it's not the case that you're reaching out your hand. If it was only so easy, you just write the name of the attainment on a whiteboard, reach out your hand and touch it, and you reach it, then it would be very, very easy. But you have to go through all of first the lower jhanic attainments, and then from the 4th jhana, you move up to the base of the boundless space, then to the base of boundless consciousness, base of nothingness, base of neither perception nor non-perception. Okay, so this is the one liberated in both ways. Then we have the one liberated by wisdom, and this is described as the person who does not contact those formless attainments with the body, but still their taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. And so that is the person liberated by wisdom. And then there is the debate about this kind of person. Okay, the debate is over the issue, does this person, they don't attain the formless meditations, but do they necessarily attain the jhanas? And so the commentary says, I think there's a note here, explanatory note. Oh, my notes are in the back. They're now in the form of endnotes. But I remember what the commentary says, that the one liberated by wisdom is of five types. There is one who can attain 4 jhanas and has arahatship. Then there's one who can only go up to the 3rd jhana, one who goes up to the 2nd jhana, and one who goes to the 1st jhana, and then on the basis of the 1st jhana attains arahatship. So those are 4, but then there's a 5th person called liberated by wisdom, and that is the person who doesn't attain any of the jhanas, but takes what is called the vehicle of bare insight, the Suddha Vipassana Yanika. That is the person who, without attaining the jhanas, goes directly into contemplating the 4 foundations of mindfulness and contemplates the 5 aggregates as being impermanent, suffering, non-self, and then on that basis is able to attain the paths and fruits up to the path and fruit of arahatship. So the bare insight meditator is not explicitly mentioned as such in the suttas, though it seems to me that the Satipatthana Sutta is describing the path of practice of the bare insight meditator, since the Satipatthana Sutta doesn't speak about jhana attainments, but just lays down what seems to be a direct path of insight and realization. And so this is the one liberated by wisdom. And I found interestingly, in the Chinese counterpart of the Chinese Samyukta Dhamma, the Chinese counterpart or the counterpart of the Pali Samyutta Nikaya, translated into Chinese, there is the explanation of the one liberated by wisdom, or maybe it was not in the Samyukta Dhamma, but maybe it was in the Mahavibhasha, one of the great Abhidharma. Please, people on the line, please mute your microphones. Yeah, I think it was in the Abhidharma Mahavibhasha. It's the great Abhidharma commentary of the Savastivada school, defines the person liberated by wisdom as one who doesn't possess jhanic attainments, but just attains arhatship just with bare insight. Anyway, so these two, the first two, are distinction of 2 kinds of arahats. Okay, now we come to those who have attained the stages from stream entry up to non-returning, from stream entry up to non-returning. And these, without distinguishing whether they are stream enterers, once returners, or non-returners. And so these are going to be distinguished not by way of their stages of attainment, but by way of their approaches to attainment, their particular paths of development. And it seems that they're graded according to the standard of superiority. So the superior person is called the body witness. And again, here we have that word body. And this is called kaya. Sakhi. And the definition is that we have the person who, again, contacts with the body and dwells in those liberations that are peaceful and non-material, transcending material forms. So this is just like the both ways liberated person, except that the text says some of his taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. So it's not the case that all the taints are destroyed. So this is a person who's only attained partially, not completely. So at most, they are a non-returner. But if not a non-returner, they could be a once returner. If not a once returner, they could be a stream enterer. And so they've destroyed some of the taints, not all of them. So they still have work to do with diligence. But they are able to attain the arupa, the formless meditative absorptions. So that person is called the body witness. And the Buddha says that he's speaking about a monk. So such a monk still has work to do with diligence. And if he does that work with diligence, then he might realize the supreme goal of the holy life. Okay, so this is the body witness. Then we have the next type of person is called the one attained to view. And the view here is not just an intellectual view, but this is wisdom, the view of wisdom. And so here we have the definition that this person does not contact with the body and dwell in those liberations that are peaceful and non-material. Some of his taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. And now this is the distinguishing factor, that he has reviewed and examined with wisdom the teachings, the Dhammas proclaimed by the Buddha, by the Tathagata. So this is the person attained to view. And the way the commentary explains this, that this is a person at the stages of either non-returning, once returning, non-returning, once returning, or stream entry, who has reached their attainment with special emphasis on wisdom. They lack the power of samadhi to bring them to the formless absorptions, but they have sufficient wisdom. They sort of use wisdom as their vehicle or tool of progress, and they penetrate with wisdom the Dhamma proclaimed by the Tathagata. Of course, all of them penetrate the truth of the Dhamma with wisdom, but the one attained to view lays special emphasis on wisdom. So this is a kind of person maybe who rigorously and very thoroughly examines, investigates, and penetrates the Dhamma using wisdom as the tool of progress. So that is the one attained to view. And again, the Buddha says that this monk still has work to do with diligence, which means that they've not yet reached the final goal. They still have to move, they still have to advance to the goal by practicing with diligence. Okay, then we have a person here who is described as liberated by faith. And this is something of a misnomer, because it suggests that the person is actually liberated. What did that say? No, it's still recording. I thought it said recording stopped. Okay, so this person is called Tadavimutta. And I think I have a hypothesis that this is a mistake that has come down in the tradition, and that a correct word should be Saddha Dimutta. So if we take it Saddha Vimutta, Vimutta means liberated, but we could say from the definition that this person isn't yet liberated. They still have work to do with diligence. But it's possible that the original expression was Saddha Adimutta, and Adimutta means intent upon, resolute, resolved upon, and often is connected or convinced through faith. And there could have been a mistake in the transmission by which the DH got turned into a V. And so it comes from Saddha Mutta, it turns into Saddha Vimutta. But that's my actually, I think in the Sanskrit tradition, this person comes down as Shraddhadi Mukta. Okay, so here's the definition. So we have the person who does not contact with the body, the immaterial, formless liberations. Some of their taints are destroyed by seeing with wisdom. So wisdom is always the means of eliminating the taints. But it's in this case, only some of the taints are destroyed. And his faith is planted, rooted, and established in the Tathagata, in the Buddha. And so this would be the person who has attained one of these stages, lower stages of realization, using faith as, you could say, the impetus or motivation for practice. And this contrasts with the person attained to view who takes wisdom as the sort of tool or instrument of progress. And so this person is called one liberated by faith, or perhaps one resolved through faith. And again, this person still has work to do with diligence. They're not yet at the goal. Okay, so, but these will be, these three that we've just covered, the body witness, the one who is attained to view, and the one liberated by faith, these will be people who collectively can be non-returners, once-returners, or stream enterers. And now we come to the person who has entered the path to stream entry, but not yet realized the fruits. And so first we have the Dhamma follower. And so we have a person who doesn't contact with the body, the formless, peaceful liberations, so does not contact with the body. The taints are not yet destroyed, so none of the taints are destroyed at this point. But the teachings proclaimed by the Tathagata are accepted by this one after reflecting on them with wisdom, or after examining them with wisdom. And the person further has the 5 spiritual faculties. So the 5 faculties are faith, energy, mindfulness, samadhi, and wisdom. So this is the Dhamma follower. And this person certainly has work to do with diligence, because they're not yet even at the level of stream enterer, but this is a person who is bound to reach the fruit, at least the fruit of stream entry within this life itself. So they're irreversibly on the path, and their means of entering the path and progressing on the path is through the use of wisdom. So that's why they're called the Dhamma follower, one who gives special emphasis to examining and exploring the Dhamma with wisdom. And we could understand the nature of this disciple by contrasting them with their counterpart. Their counterpart is called the faith follower. So the Dhamma follower is the Dham Anusari. So Anusari is one who goes along with. So in this case, Dham Anusari, one who goes along with the Dhamma, or goes along through the Dhamma. But we might also call this type, my own expression would be Panyanusari, the one who goes along through wisdom. And the contrast is with the faith follower. And this is the one who goes along with faith, or who goes along through faith. And so the definition comes, the person doesn't contact with the body, the liberations that are peaceful and non-material. The taints are not yet destroyed, so they haven't yet destroyed any of the asavas. And so what distinguishes this person is that they have sufficient faith in, maybe it sounds a little corny, love for the Tathagata. It's saddha and pema. Pema is, we could say, affection, devotion. And of course, faith is saddha. So this would be maybe a person who is of a more devotional temperament, whereas the counterpart, the Dhamma follower, is the person with a more, say, intellectual temperament. And so this person, the Sadhanusari, uses their faith in the Buddha and their devotion towards the Buddha as their impetus for practice. And as they go on with the practice, they're going to reach the stage of stream entry. And again, this person has the 5 faculties. So they have faith, energy, mindfulness, concentration, and they have the wisdom faculty. So we shouldn't think that this is just a person who is completely given over to faith and devotion. not like the Hare Krishnas who just go around dancing, Hare Krishna, Hare Rama, but the person, in order to reach this level, they need wisdom, the wisdom that understands, that penetrates the three marks of impermanence, suffering, non-self. But sort of the dominant trait in their character that sort of governs their practice is that faith in the Buddha and their personal, I like the word devotion better than love, and devotion towards the Tathagata. And again, this person has work to do with diligence. And when they make use of suitable dwellings, have good friends, balance the spiritual faculties, then it's possible that they will realize that supreme goal of the holy life. And what's interesting and rather puzzling, when we come to the persons who have realized the fruit of maybe, okay, let us go a little further with this. Okay, we could say that the body witness is the person in whom samadhi, concentration, is the strongest faculty. And since this person at the lower stages already has, or already can attain the immaterial attainments, when they reach arhatship, what kind of arhat will they become? Both ways liberated, or
Both
liberated?
ways.
Both ways.
Say
Both
again?
ways.
Yeah. When this person attains arhatship, they become the person liberated in both ways, in both respects, because they already have the formless attainments. And so all they have to do is use wisdom to destroy the remaining taints. Then when all the taints are destroyed, then they're liberated in both ways. Okay, then we have the person attained to view. So this person at this point doesn't contact with the body and abide in the liberations that are peaceful and immaterial. Some of his taints are destroyed by wisdom. As they progress further, and when they attain arhatship, what kind of arhat will they become?
One way, Arahant. Bhante.
One way.
Liberated by wisdom, Bhante.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because it seems to me like if this person doesn't make an effort to develop the samadhi further, they'll become liberated by wisdom. But it's an open question that I haven't seen discussed in the suttas or even in the commentary. What happens if this person, let's say they're a non-returner and they're one attained to view, and they decide, I'm going to develop this path of samadhi further, then they put more emphasis on practicing on the samadhi practices, and then they attain the formless meditations. And then they go on to strengthen their insight and attain arhatship. In that case, they can become liberated in both respects. So it seems that this person could wind up in either of those categories if they just stress the further development of wisdom, then they'll become liberated by wisdom. But if they devote more time and effort to strengthening their samadhi to the point that they've reached the formless absorptions, then they become liberated in both respects. And the same would be true for the person liberated by faith or resolved on faith. Again, if this person just goes on developing their insight or their wisdom, they become liberated by wisdom. But if they put devote more time and effort to developing the samadhi to the level of the formless absorptions, then they become liberated in both respects. But what's interesting is that at the level of the lower attainments, okay, first the level of the final attainment, we have the one who has preeminence of samadhi, that's the one liberated in both ways, and the one who has preeminence in wisdom. So both samadhi and wisdom get emphasis at the level of the final goal, but not faith so much. At the level of the lower stages of realization, we have the body witness who gives prominence to samadhi, the one attained to view who gives prominence to wisdom, and the one liberated by faith who gives prominence to faith. But then when we come to the two types of persons who are on the path, who have attained the path but not yet realized the fruit, we have the one who gives prominence to wisdom and the one who gives prominence to faith, but we don't have a type who gives prominence to samadhi, which is rather puzzling because you can see that there's the distinction of these two persons on the path. In explaining both of them, it says that they don't contact with the body, the formless absorptions, whether the Dhamma follower or the faith follower. But what happens if you have a person, and I'm sure that there were people like this in the Buddha's day, like some of the rishis or the samanas living in the forest who developed the formless meditations. They hadn't yet met the Buddha. They developed the formless absorptions, but were not satisfied with them. Then they heard about the Buddha. They came to meet the Buddha, listen to the Buddha's teaching, and then they attained some stage of realization. And so they would have been attainers of the formless meditations, and yet when they enter the path, they do so either with wisdom or faith, but there has to be some place for them in this scheme. But there isn't that place, at least according to these definitions. I don't know the answer to that problem, but and it doesn't keep me awake at night. I don't lie up until 1 o'clock in the morning thinking, whatever happened to the person who attained the formless meditations and reaches the path of stream entry, but they're not included in the scheme. But it just seems like something is missing in the scheme that's laid down. And I haven't seen an explanation why that type of person is omitted. But certainly we have to maybe create a category for a person who contacts with the body and abides in the liberations that are peaceful and immaterial. His taints are not yet destroyed. And I'm sorry, there has to be a place for the person who contacts with the body, the liberations that are peaceful and immaterial. His taints are not yet destroyed by seeing with wisdom. And there has to be there has to be some place for them, but the type is not recognized in the scheme. Okay, so this gives us a detailed explanation. Now let's just go back to the Anguttara Nikaya. And so we have the 7 types simply mentioned by name here, and probably the compilers of the Anguttara Nikaya would have recognized that the definitions of these 7 types had been preserved in the Majjhima Nikaya. And so they would have referred their students to the Majjhima Nikaya for full definitions. And here it simply said that these persons are worthy of gifts, worthy of salutation, the unsurpassed field of merit for the world. Okay, maybe we should take some questions. And so let me find the Zoom box. Okay, so we could start off, and the way to raise the question is through the hand symbol. And so we can start with Gita. And please, I will ask people, keep the questions concise and direct and simply formulated. Okay, please, Gita.
Thank you, Bhante, for all the teachings. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Bhante, so am I understanding this correctly if I say that without wisdom, you can't gain liberation? So wisdom is an absolute necessary prerequisite in order to reach Nibbana?
Oh, definitely so, yeah.
Okay, that's it. Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, yeah. In all of the stages, because all the persons at all of these stages have the 5 faculties, and one of those faculties is Panya or wisdom. The only thing that differs is the weight that they give to one or another of these faculties. So amongst the 5 faculties, we could look at the 5 faculties, so that we don't see them here. So amongst the 5 faculties, we could say that the one liberated in both respects gives prominence to samadhi, and the body witness gives prominence to samadhi. The one liberated through wisdom gives prominence to wisdom. The one
Vipassana.
to view gives prominence to wisdom. And the Dhamma follower, the Dhammanusari, gives prominence to wisdom. The one, let's see, the one liberated by faith and the faith follower gives prominence to faith. And of course, all of them have energy and mindfulness. So the difference is the distribution of emphasis amongst wisdom, samadhi, and faith.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, let's see, where is the... Okay, next is Sumana.
Bhante. Bhante, in the case of Bahiya, I just wonder what is he belong to the uncaratory case, Bhante?
Yeah, this is Bahiya. Okay, Bahiya, just for people who don't know about Bahiya, this is an interesting case also. Bahiya was originally a kind of solitary ascetic who thought that he had attained liberation. And then, according to the sutta, this is in the Udana, the sutta number 10, according to that sutta, a deity came to him and told him, you haven't attained liberation. You're deluded about your attainment. And then Bahiya was sort of shaken by that, but he accepted the advice of the deity. And he asked the deity, who can teach me the way to liberation? And the deity said, go to Savatthi and meet the Buddha. He'll show you the way to liberation. And so Bahiya went to Savatthi to meet the Buddha. And when he came to the monastery, the monks told him, the Buddha, he's not here now. He's on his alms round. And so then Bahiya ran into the town to meet the Buddha. And he came to the Buddha and said, Bhante, teach me the way to liberation. And the Buddha said, don't ask me that now. I'm walking for alms. But Bahiya was insistent. 3 times he asked the Buddha, And finally, when the Buddha is asked something 3 times, he has to respond. So then the Buddha gave Bahia very, very concise teaching. It's a teaching: in the seen, there should be only what is seen; in the heard, only what is heard; in what is sensed, only what is sensed; in what is cognized, only what is cognized. And right on the spot, Bahia attained arhatship. And so the sutta doesn't say what kind of arhat he was, but my speculation would be that when he was practicing as a solitary ascetic, he probably attained the formless absorptions. And so by attaining the formless absorptions, like the base of infinite space or consciousness, or any of the higher ones, he thought that he was an arhat. And so when the deity dispelled his delusion, he still had access to that attainment. So when he met the Buddha gave him the instructions that generated the wisdom. So my suspicion is that he would have been liberated in both respects. But the text itself doesn't say anything about his particular standing. Okay, so we go now to next is from V.
Yeah, Bhante, I have a question, 3 questions. First question is that, what does it mean by does not contact with the body? Does that mean arupa jhana?
It means that he doesn't have attainment.
Oh, okay. Right. And when you mention about the base of infinite space and the base of infinite consciousness, what is the difference in terms of the experience? The 5 senses would have gone, and then the mind is still there. But how does one know that it is infinite space, yes, but infinite consciousness, how do you know your consciousness is infinite?
The way it's explained, okay, the way it's explained, so in like the Visuddhimagga, okay, to attain the base of infinite space, what one does, first one has to attain the fourth jhana, based on a kasina, like one of these colored discs. And then one expands the mental image of the disc, let us just say a blue kasina. One expands that blue kasina boundlessly till there are no boundaries. Okay, then one mentally removes the kasina until only the space remains. And so that will be the base of boundless space. So it's that space occupied by the kasina object. Okay, so then to move from the base of boundless space to the base of boundless consciousness, the meditator focuses on, because when you're aware of boundless space, there is consciousness of boundless space. And so at this point, to go from one level to the next, the meditator focuses on the consciousness that was aware of boundless space, just using the sort of mantra or meditation cue, boundless consciousness, boundless consciousness. And then at a certain point, the mind shifts from the focus on boundless space to focus on the consciousness that was aware of that boundless space.
Yep. And the follow-up question is that on the perception and non-perception and the final, the 4 plus 1, the 1 of perception, there's no perception of feeling. Does that mean that one would have already reached the nibbana without remainder?
No. What's called the nirvana without remainder, that is the nibbana that's attained with the passing away of the arahat. But what's called the cessation of perception and feeling, It's a kind of meditative absorption in which perception and feeling have completely ceased. And according to the commentarial system, even all the mental functions have ceased in that attainment.
So is it a nibbana with remainder? No, it hasn't reached the nibbana yet.
No, well, that person who attains that could have reached nibbana, but technically, nibbana with remainder just refers to the extinction of greed, hatred, and delusion that has been attained by the Arhat.
Okay, right. Okay, thank
You
you.
just call it what the texts call it, the cessation of perception and feeling.
Okay, that's for the Arupa Jhana 4 plus 1, the number 9, the Jhana number 9, is it?
Yeah, but it's not called the jhana. It's called
the Arupa.
the attainment of cessation, Nirodha Samapatti.
Okay, right. Thank you, Sadhu.
Okay. Okay, next one is Chaya or Jaya.
Thank you, Bhante. Thank you for the teachings. I have a question with 4 parts. So if we take an arahant liberated by wisdom, could they attain Nirodha Samapatti? And second part, if not...
Okay, let's take each part. Okay, according to the explanation, this is in the Visuddhimagga, which describes the process for attaining, and also this goes back to an earlier text called Patisambhidamagga, which describes the process for attaining the cessation of perception and feeling. One has to be able to attain the 4 formless absorptions, the 4 jhanas and the 4 formless attainments in order to attain cessation. And one has to be either non-returner or an arahat to attain the cessation of perception and feeling.
Thank you, Bhante. So in that case, an arahant liberated by wisdom or non-returner who's going in the wisdom pathway, do you think for the arahant, do you think they might then try to achieve the Nirodha Samapatti after becoming an arahant?
They could, but what they would have to do, it's an interesting question, they would have to then develop first the four formless absorptions or formless attainments, and then progress further to the cessation of perception and feeling. And it's an interesting puzzle because it would seem that after attaining arhatship, there should be no obstacle to attaining the 4 formless meditations, and therefore no obstacle to attaining the attainment of cessation. And yet the texts don't seem to hold that it's not the case that all arhats attain the formless meditations and cessation. So I just don't know. It could be that, maybe that ability in samadhi requires a certain strength or power that has been built up through previous lives. And so one could have sufficiently powerful wisdom to attain arhatship, but the samadhi is not strong enough to go into the formless absorptions. So I just don't know.
Thank you, Bhante. I have read in some of the suttas that it's a pleasant abiding in the here and now, and they like to do that. So I was just wondering whether
that would apply to any of these attainments, whether it could be the jhana attainments, the formless meditations, or even the contemplation with insight of the 3 characteristics is sometimes called a pleasant abiding in this life itself. So that doesn't seem to be a very technical term.
Thank you, Bhante. Sadhu, sadhu.
Okay, Kilaya?
Thank you, Bhante, for the teaching. You were wondering about a body witness that has no taints destroyed. I think that was what you were wondering, why they weren't listed. You were wondering why there was no body witnessed with no taints destroyed.
Yeah, this would be why there's no person on the path.
Right. I was wondering whether it's because someone who's attained the immaterial states would automatically have to have destroyed the taint of sensuality. Do you think that's possible explanation?
I don't think so, because somebody can be, in order to attain even the jhanas, not to speak about the formless meditations, one has to have overcome temporarily sensual desire or sensual craving. But the sensual craving would not yet be abandoned or eradicated at the level of the asava, at the taint. That has to come about through wisdom. And so somebody at the level of the path would, suppose they're able to attain the formless meditations, but still they would not have eradicated the asava of sensuality through wisdom. Does that make sense?
Okay, yes, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yeah.
My other question was, do you think that when we look at Anguttara Nikaya in the fives, number 14, when it's explained that, seems to explain that samadhi is jhana. Would you equate the two? And if samadhi is equal to jhana, then there would be no individual who is liberated by wisdom who has no jhana, it seems.
You're referring to which sutta that equates?
The Anguttara Nikaya number in the fives, number 14, it explains the five faculties. One of them is samadhi, and Buddha explains the four jhanas as the samadhi faculty.
Yeah, there is a definition of the samadhi faculty. One of the definitions is by way of the four jhanas, but there's another definition of the samadhi faculty in that same group, in which the samadhi faculty is defined as that one pointedness of mind which has release as its foundation or its basis, as its object. And so it's possible that that definition of the faculty of samadhi is included in order to give scope for the type of samadhi that is not at the level of the jhanas. Yeah, I just don't know. But there's, like, some can argue on the basis of what is the way samma samadhi and the definition of the 8 factors of the path. Samma samadhi, right concentration, is defined by way of the 4 jhanas. And so some argue that therefore right concentration must be concentration of the level of the jhanas. And so there is that argument, but it seems to me, again, that we could find in the text, if you look really carefully, cases of those who reach different stages of realization, even arhatship, without the attainment of the jhanas. And it seems to me, as I said earlier, that the Satipatthana Sutta is laying out that particular system of practice that culminates in liberation without emphasis on the jhanas. It could include the jhanas, but not giving prominence to them.
Thank you, Bhante.
Okay, I think we're going to have to come to an end now to wrap up the class. And so I took only one sutta of suttas that I planned to take today. So we will continue with this examination of different types next week. And so we end with the sharing of the merits. And so we're going to share the merits with the Dhamma protecting devas, the nagas, the dragon spirits, and with other beings. Akasa ta chabuma ta deva naga mahidika punyanta manumoditva chirangra kantu sasanam. Akasa ta chabuma ta deva naga mahidika punyanta manumoditva chirangra kantu desanam. Akasa ta chabuma ta deva naga mahidika punyanta manumoditva chirangra kantu mang parang. Dukkha pata jani dukkha baya pata jani baya soka pata jani soka pantu sabe pipanino. May those in suffering be free from suffering. May those in fear be free from fear. May those in sorrow be free from sorrow. May all living beings also be thus. Can we go sadhu, sadhu, sadhu?
Sadhu,
Sadhu, sadhu,
And we're going to end,
sadhu.
and we're going to end with three bows. We'll end with three bows. Okay, so we could stand up.
sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Wait. Okay. Okay, so thank you everybody for joining.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante. Good to
And
see
bow
you
to our
again.
Bhikkhu Bodhi. Thank you, Bhante, and
To
a
you,
bow to you.
Bhante.
Bow to Bhante.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
Peruvan Sarnai,
Thank you,
Namo
Bhante, for
Buddhaya.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you for the Dhamma,
Thank you,
Bhante.
Bhante.
Thank you,
Okay,
Bhante.
take care. Be careful.
Be well, Bhante. Yeah, take
Okay,
care.
take care.
Bye.
Thank you, Bhante.
Thank you, Bhante.
See you next Wednesday. Bye, Bhante.
Love you.
Bye, Carolyn. Take care
Bye.
of your health.
Thank you. Love to all of you.
Yeah, love to you too.
Thank you.
Yeah, bye.
Okay, so I'm going to turn it off now. Let's stop the recording.